Hey guys, it's Luke here and welcome back to another video. If you guys are new to the channel, this here is my 2008 E92 M3. It's a DCT car and it's covered just over 70,000 miles, and it's a car which I've daily driven for the last kind of 3 or 4 months or so. I've done about 3,000 miles in it so far, and what I found when actually looking to buy one of these cars is, yes, there is some information online about things that you should know, but I just think it would be a nice idea for you guys at home possibly looking to buy one of these things, be it an E90, an E92 or an E93. I'll go through those different code names very shortly. I thought it'd be nice to just run through the things which you guys should know when buying one of these cars, things to avoid, things to go for, and just a bit of a buyer's guide generally to the magnificent E92 M3. So as you can see, my specific car is finished in the quite rare color of Silverstone Blue. Even though it looks pretty much silver on camera, the official code name by BMW is Silverstone Blue. We also have the gloss gray genuine 260M wheels. Course spec again with the carbon roof, along with some other carbon fiber extras, which you guys may have seen already. As I mentioned, it's a DCT car, full leather inside, and yeah, I absolutely adore it. As I mentioned, I drive it every day. It's my daily driver, and even though with the fuel prices at the moment, I still absolutely love it. The E92 M3, of course, made infamous by the fact that it's the only M3 generation which has a V8. And under here we have the glorious S65 4-litre naturally aspirated V8. Quite a unique thing to be fitted into a 3 Series, essentially, derived from the V10, which was in the M5 back in the day as well. But with such a big engine, there is, of course, some things that you do need to know about looking after it and maintaining it, making sure it still purrs for hundreds of thousands of miles. It doesn't take a genius to work out what I'm going to be speaking about first, and that is, of course, rod bearings. Now, rod bearings for the S65 is without a doubt the most common, notorious and expensive issue, shall we say, with them. On this specific car, they were done, I think, at around 50 to 60,000 miles. And to be honest, it is known for them to go at about 60 to 70,000 miles. It is worth noting that it's not something which you do once and you never have to do again. It is, I suppose, regarded as a serviceable item, and so every 60,000 miles it will need to be done. So basically, I've got a bit of a task to get this thing to 120,000 miles, and then I can do it again. Well, I say can, have to do it again, because you really don't want to leave it too late, because if the rod bearings do go, it's basically a bottom end engine rebuild, or for the worst, a full engine rebuild, which is probably in the excess of 8 to 10,000, depending on who you go to and depending on whether you upgrade or uprate the parts within the engine bay or just rebuild it to OEM spec. Now, the rough cost for a rod bearing service, shall we say, is about £1,500 to £2,000. You get obviously 8 bearings. You also get an oil change, so it is advised to do some other things like a wheel alignment and other things, bits and bobs like that. It is basically worth doing a full service as well as getting the rod bearings done, not just the rod bearings, and that's it. As I mentioned, it's not something which I've personally had to deal with because this car has already been done in the service life cycle, shall we say, but it probably will need to be done in a couple of years when this thing is well in excess of 100,000 miles. But yeah, rod bearings, be careful. If you're buying one of these cars, ask the question. If it doesn't already say it in the advert, it's a massive selling point for any E92, E90 or E93 chassis to have this done. And to be honest, don't buy one unless they have been done, or unless you get it included or the price taken off when you do. But I mean, apart from that, you've obviously got the throttle actuators. That is something which I've had an issue with this car. That's the other kind of known problem. But to be honest, for such a big engine and for now such an old car, it is unusual to have just 2 main problems which do need to be kept an eye on and kept addressed. Throttle actuators, there's 2 actuators within this car. Underneath the plenum, it's about there and there, so 1 for each bank basically. Now, a little bit of personal advice: if you want to be reassured that it's all sorted and all done for the foreseeable, shall we say, just get a new set. To be honest, you can get them reconditioned, but the mistake that I made is when kind of taking out the actuators and looking within inside them, the gears looked fine. So I thought, what's the issue here? Everything looks fine. But it's actually the circuit board within the actuators as well, which can also go wrong. But having had both those things rebuilt, there was still a fault, and it puts the car in limp mode, completely undrivable and a complete pain in the arse. So what I ended up doing is just getting 2 new actuators, a complete set, brand new, and that solved it. And to be honest, the price difference between getting yours rebuilt and a set of brand new ones isn't really that much. You're looking at about £600 for all in a recondition service, or it's about 1,000, 900 to 1,000, I think, in most cases for a complete new set. It's a no-brainer, but again, if you are buying one, just make sure that both the actuators and the bearings have been done, because it's a pain in the arse. Like I mentioned earlier on as well, I've covered about 3,000 miles in this car, and generally it is advised that you service this car every 5,000 miles. So if you're an idiot and buys one of these as a daily like me and plans to do a lot of miles, then over the course of X amount of time, you're going to be spending a lot on maintenance costs. Now personally, I'll be going to a specialist for this. You will of course pay more for a main dealer stamp or main dealer service. Most likely I'll be going to Swift Performance. But also just general running costs like road tax and insurance. When this car was new, it was considerably more than what they're going for now, and therefore it is in a higher tax bracket. I personally pay road tax annually on this, and it's £600 per year, and that's not going to decrease either. Well, it may even go up, who knows. And insurance, again, it varies on so many different variables, but this is on my multi-car policy with my Golf R and my M140i, and it basically added about £1,000 to my policy, which isn't too bad. So you're probably all wondering how much I've spent on fuel in this car in 3,000 miles, and thank you BMW for this nice little receipt chamber so I can store my massively expensive receipts. 3,000 miles, I've filled this car up about 10 to 12 times, I imagine, and I have added them up, and it has cost me £1,604.21 for 3,000 miles in this car. And yes, that is an obscene amount of money, but when you press this button here, it all becomes worth it. I mean, come on, that sound is just priceless. You can forget your running costs when it sounds like this. Oh, and it kind of inadvertently leads me on to my next point of actually the price of these. Now, when they were new, they were probably, I reckon, around 70 to 80,000, I think. I picked this up for a figure beginning with 2, and in most cases you can get these cars for less than £25,000, which yes, is still a lot of money, but for an M3, which is naturally aspirated, and a V8, it really is a bit of a bargain. Now, if you want to buy one of these cars for a bit of a collector's piece, because they are actually becoming quite collectible and rare, especially the rarer iterations and versions of this chassis. To be honest, if you are out there looking to get a collectible one, then the E92 and the E93 are the most common, the E93 being basically a convertible E92. Very cool, but personally I do prefer the coupe of the E92, and the E90 is basically the saloon, which does look very cool. It's a 4-door E92 basically, but still all 3 variations all still have the same running gear and everything like that. It's just body styles basically. It's so loud, so loud. It's intoxicating, it's addictive to drive this car. From factory, they're obviously naturally aspirated. They're not the most tunable cars. This car is a stage 1 car. It has the potential to be a stage 2, and I probably will do that eventually. But you're not gonna get anything more really than 450 horsepower. However, there is the capabilities of going down the route of forced induction. You may remember I filmed a 720 horsepower supercharged E92 M3 recently, which was unbelievable, but obviously the costs involved with that are astronomical. Personally, one of the main reasons why I love this car is because it's naturally aspirated and because of that noise, which you're gonna lose slightly if you go forced induction. So yeah, you're not gonna get the most power out of this thing, and it's probably about 420 horsepower of this car at the moment. Not loads of power, but it's still an absolute joy to drive. You don't get in this car and want to fly everywhere and get that sense of speed. You drive this car to have the sense of occasion, the theatre, because that behind you is just enough to put the biggest smile on your face the whole time. So yeah, that is a little bit of an indication of what it's like to own an E92 M3, and a few little tips for you guys if you are looking to buy one. I would highly, highly recommend it. They're an absolutely fantastic car, whether you want to buy it for an investment, because it's a good investment, or whether you want to buy it to enjoy it, like what I'm doing. And yeah, I have no regrets. Even with some of the costs involved, like we talked about earlier on in the video, I still absolutely love this car and have certainly no plans to sell it. Now, of course, I am still quite early on in my ownership process with this car. Some of the things I will have to revisit and obviously update you guys in further videos. But yeah, in general, E92 M3, amazing, amazing car, and very, very privileged to say that I own one. But anyway, that is it for me today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'm going to have to close the valves because it is too loud. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please make sure you leave a like and make sure to subscribe for all the adventures still to come.